In recent developments in the ongoing legal proceedings involving former President Donald Trump, federal appeals courts have issued significant rulings on presidential immunity claims. This video provides a factual breakdown of what these rulings mean, the legal principles involved, and what may happen next in the various cases. This is a complex legal situation unfolding across multiple jurisdictions. We'll walk through the verified facts, the court procedures, and the context you need to understand these developments. The United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit has rejected arguments from Trump's legal team regarding presidential immunity from criminal prosecution. The three-judge panel determined that former presidents do not have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions taken while in office. The court distinguished between official acts performed as president and private conduct. This ruling is significant because it addresses a question that has limited precedent in American legal history. While sitting presidents have long been considered protected from prosecution while in office, the question of immunity for former presidents after they leave office has not been definitively settled until these recent cases. The court's opinion stated that Trump's alleged actions related to the 2020 election were not protected official acts. However, it's important to note that this ruling addresses immunity claims specifically, not guilt or innocence regarding the underlying charges. To understand why this matters, we need context about presidential immunity. The concept of presidential immunity has two main forms. First, absolute immunity for certain official acts while serving as president. This protects presidents from being sued for decisions made in their official capacity. Second, immunity from criminal prosecution. Legal scholars have long debated whether this extends to former presidents for actions taken while in office. The Department of Justice has maintained a long-standing policy that sitting presidents cannot be indicted. But what about former presidents? That's the question these courts are now addressing. Previous presidents who faced legal scrutiny, Richard Nixon, Bill Clinton, either received pardons, faced civil rather than criminal cases, or left office before criminal prosecution could proceed. The current situation involves active criminal prosecutions of a former president, which creates new legal territory. Trump currently faces charges in 4 separate cases: federal election interference case in Washington, D.C., where special counsel Jack Smith charged Trump with conspiracy to defraud the United States and obstruction of an official proceeding related to the 2020 election and January 6 events. This case is overseen by U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan. The classified documents case in Florida involves federal charges related to the retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago after Trump left office, and alleged obstruction of efforts to retrieve them. This case has faced delays and procedural challenges. The Georgia state case involves charges from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis under Georgia's RICO statute related to alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. This case includes multiple co-defendants. The New York State case involves charges related to business records and alleged hush money payments. Trump was convicted on 34 counts in this case in 2024, though sentencing and appeals are ongoing. Each case proceeds on its own timeline through different court systems. Federal cases and state cases operate under different rules and procedures. When an appeals court issues a ruling, that doesn't automatically end the matter. The losing party can request several things. They can ask the full appeals court to rehear the case en banc, meaning all judges on that circuit, not just a 3-judge panel, review the decision. They can petition the Supreme Court to hear the case through a writ of certiorari. The Supreme Court receives thousands of such petitions each year and accepts only a small percentage. Until appeals are exhausted or declined, trial proceedings may be paused in some cases, though courts can choose to proceed depending on the circumstances. The timeline for appeals can range from weeks to months. The Supreme Court controls its own schedule and can choose whether and when to intervene. These legal proceedings are occurring during an election cycle, which adds political dimensions to the legal questions. From an institutional perspective, legal scholars note several significant aspects. The courts are establishing precedents about presidential accountability and the limits of executive power. These precedents will affect future presidencies regardless of political party. The judicial system is demonstrating its independence by ruling on these cases based on legal arguments rather than political considerations. The separation of powers between branches of government is being tested in real time. It's worth noting that the judicial process is designed to be deliberate and methodical. Courts consider constitutional questions, procedural matters, and legal precedents. This takes time and involves multiple layers of review. Looking ahead, several scenarios are possible. If Trump's legal team appeals to the Supreme Court and the court agrees to hear the case, that could delay trial proceedings while the immunity question is resolved at the highest level. If the Supreme Court declines to hear the appeal, or if it rules against Trump's immunity claims, the trial cases would proceed according to their respective schedules. Each case has its own judge, its own procedural timeline, and its own set of legal issues beyond just immunity. Actual trial dates depend on many factors: court calendars, pretrial motions, discovery processes, and appellate decisions. It's important to emphasize that charges are allegations. Under the American legal system, defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Trials involve presentation of evidence, witness testimony, and jury deliberations. This situation raises important questions about American governance. How do we balance presidential authority with legal accountability? What are the appropriate limits of executive power? How does the legal system handle cases involving high-profile political figures while maintaining fairness and impartiality? Legal historians note that democracies face periodic tests of their institutions. How courts, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and ultimately juries handle these cases will contribute to the ongoing evolution of American constitutional law. Regardless of one's political views, the outcome of these cases will have lasting implications for the office of the presidency and the principle that no one is above the law. This remains an evolving legal situation. As courts issue rulings, as appeals are filed, and as cases proceed, we'll continue to provide factual updates based on verified information from official court documents and credible news sources. For more in-depth legal analysis and updates on these cases, subscribe to this channel. Leave your questions in the comments, and we'll address them in future videos with fact-based information. Thank you for watching.